Good afternoon. It's Thursday, January 31. I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. A joint police military operation is currently underway in Bull Bay, which borders St. Andrew and St. Thomas, in response to growing gun violence in the community. 5 persons have been shot and killed in Bull Bay since the start of January. The operation is being carried out to apprehend wanted men in the community and a hunt for guns. The police say gangs have made it difficult to maintain order in sections of eastern Kingston and St. Thomas, which have been seeing a rise in gang activities. They say gangs in Bobo Hill, Taylorland, Tank Hill and Beechwood have been fighting for turf. Now residents say they have been forced off the streets, houses burnt to the ground and businesses shut down due to the brazen gunfights taking place between gunmen in the area. In addition to these scenarios, there are also regular robberies taking place. And we're now joined on the phone by Major Basil Jarrett of the JDF. Mr. Jarrett, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Herman.
First of all, how serious a situation is this in Bull Bay?
Well, as you just described it, this situation has been ongoing for some time. We are aware of a number of gangs operating in the area, and they're responsible for various crimes, including extortion, shooting, and murder. And so the deployment this morning of soldiers was to put a significant support element behind the police as we try to stem the growing tide.
Okay, you said it started this morning. We're seeing images there of it, seem like early morning. Has anything been found as yet? Has anyone been taken into custody?
We've detained approximately 21 men, 4 of which are heavily suspected to have been involved in criminal activities and are suspected of being gang members. But we've picked up around 18 to 21 young men, and the police are currently processing them. In the meantime, there are ongoing searches throughout the day as we try to recover weapons and other illegal contraband.
Okay, good. We understand tents are also being set up for your JDF personnel. How long do you expect to be there?
We intend to be here for as long as it takes to apprehend and to remove some of these men from the streets. At this point, I really can't give you a timeline as to how long we're going to be here. But we are serious about this intervention in the community, and we're asking residents in the area to support the security forces to call the JDF tip line 837-8888 and help us by providing us with information that can support our intelligence gathering.
Okay, thank you very much, Major Basil Jarrett of the Jamaica Defense Force. A 52-year-old man was shot and killed by an unknown assailant in Warrender Place, Augustown, yesterday. He has been identified as Darrell Bryan, otherwise called Badu, from Beaumont Road in Kingston 6. Information received is that about 10:25 in the morning, Mr. Bryan was standing along the roadway when he was approached by a gunman who opened fire, hitting him several times. Concerns are being expressed over the crime rate in St. James, even though significant gains have been made under the state of emergency, SOE. Those concerns are even greater this afternoon as the SOE is scheduled to end at midnight. President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, JHTA, Omar Robinson, says even though murder figures for the parish have gone down by more than 200 since the imposition of the SOE, significantly more resources are needed to maintain the gains which have been made.
We're hoping that whatever it is, whatever other strategies, if Zozos need to be put into some communities, additional manpower in the security forces, additional vehicles, whatever the intelligence that need to be given to the police force, we hope that all of those will be put in place so that we can realize those gains.
Speaking at the post-cabinet press briefing on Wednesday, Information Minister Senator Ruel Reid pointed out that the Andrew Holness administration has indicated that the security forces will be given priority in the upcoming budget.
We are going to make sure there are numbers on the ground in terms of security forces. We're going to use all the resources, the technology that is available. You'll hear in the budget presentation later on our commitment to putting resources behind the national security. We saw that last year in our deliberations so far. It is going to receive highest priority in terms of funding. So I want to assure the nation that notwithstanding limitation, we are going to work very, very hard.
In the meantime, Mr. Robinson notes that tourism partners worldwide are recognizing the efforts being made to curtail the high murder rates in the tourism capital.
Jamaica continues to be strong. Our numbers for January were 10% up for January. And the feedback so far has been good.
It has been a rocky start of the year in Venezuela as it is experiencing both a food crisis and controversy surrounding the leadership of the country. CNN senior international correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh spoke about the issue on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program on Thursday.
Last week, the United States, Canada, the European Union, the Organization of American States, and more than a dozen Latin American nations recognized Venezuela opposition leader Juan Guaido as the country's interim president. But as Juan Guaido fights to take up the mantle, elected President Nicolas Maduro has refused to step down as president.
A man called Juan Guaido, who's the leader of the opposition, the Speaker of the National Assembly, stepped forward last week and said that he was now the interim president. He swore himself in front of a crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. The US recognized him. A lot of Venezuela's neighbors recognized him too. Nicolas Maduro is still backed by Russia, China, Cuba, but most of the world's democracies are backing Juan Guaido. But in all truth, he doesn't really have much control over the levers of power. Nicolas Maduro is kind of still running the country.
Currently, there is another protest against the country's embattled President Maduro. Protesters say his rule has ruined Venezuela. CNN senior international correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh says the problems in Venezuela is more extreme than the battle for leadership. He pointed out that Venezuela is experiencing a food crisis and people are worried about where their next meal is coming from.
We spent nearly a week inside the country undercover talking to normal people, and really this is a food crisis. This is about hyperinflation, 1 million% expected to reach this year. And these are people who live in this sort of sparkling, particularly in the capital city, Caracas, this sparkling city that sort of is redolent of all the riches they had when they were a very thriving petrol state. But now people are eating out of trash cans. I mean, it's extraordinary to see. And so the daily crisis people lurching forward is, how am I going to get enough gas for my car? How am I going to get enough food for my family? 10 million% hyperinflation means that you're going to pay more probably next week for the food that you buy today. And people are going to charge you tomorrow's prices.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Jamaica has grappled with high levels of crime over the last few years, and now concern is being raised about the psychological risk of Jamaicans being desensitized to crime. Chairman of the Southern Regional Health Authority, Wayne Chen, says murder no longer evokes any sense of horror. He said this is mainly because criminals have become more barefaced with killing people in public. Mr. Chen believes Jamaicans need to recover from being desensitized to crime.
So killings of this type have become more uncommon. But as I say, the shocking part was how we reacted. The fact that killing no longer evokes any sense of horror and life can go on as always has said something about us.
He says Jamaicans need to recover from the psychological factor of seeing crime and violence as the norm. It's why he's also concerned about the nation's children.
We have lost the sense, the ability to be shocked by even the most extreme cases of violence. And that is something that we have to recover. We have to recover the sense of shock and horror. And I say all this because can you imagine what is happening to the minds of the children who are growing up in this environment?
Mr. Chen was speaking at the Orange Day Road March in Mandeville recently. Jamaica's long-term foreign currency and local currency rating has been upgraded to B+ from B by ratings agency Finch. This is Jamaica's highest rating in the past decade. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the upgrade reflects Jamaica's macroeconomic performance, in particular the track record of strong fiscal discipline reflected in sustained high primary surpluses over the last 6 years. According to Fitch, the positive performance indicators underpin the upgrade in Jamaica's credit ratings includes strong performance of the tax revenues, increasing by 10.4% year-on-year, the declining path of Jamaica's public debt to GDP, and the decrease in the government's interest burden to an estimated 6.8% of GDP in fiscal year 2018-19 from 8% recorded in financial year 2014-15. The National Works Agency, NWA, says work on the intersection of Passage Forth Drive and the Dyke Road in Portmore St. Catherine is now 80% complete. Communications manager at the agency, Stephen Shaw, says the main structure has been completed and they are now putting on the wing walls. He says once that is completed, approach roads will be put in. The NWA is spending $59 million on the repair work. The project started last September after culverts were damaged by heavy rains in 2017, causing a section of the roadway to collapse. It's expected that the road will be open in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Former Director of Elections, Orrit Fisher, has been named as part of a Commonwealth Observer Group for the general elections in Nigeria, scheduled for February 16. The group's mandate is to observe and consider factors affecting the credibility of the electoral process as a whole. It will assess whether the elections have been conducted in accordance with the standards for democratic elections to which Nigeria has committed itself. The group will also be able to make recommendations for the future strengthening of the electoral framework. The top performers of an entrepreneurship program in the corporate area walked away with prize monies, goods, and high praises for the initiative. The program, put on by the Lasco Chin Foundation, had its graduation ceremony this week. The 3 top performers, Deidre Dixon from Raytown, Kevin McLeish, and Roland Griffiths from Majestic Gardens, shared a total of $125,000 in award money. Foundation founder and executive chairman Lascelles Chin praised the graduates for their mastery of a key business ability.
This entrepreneurship program is very close to my heart because it reminds me of my early experience in business as a salesman. I understand how important it is to know how to sell. And so we have designed a program that starts with learning how to sell. If you really know how to sell, you have mastered an important skill necessary to run a profitable business.
The 6-month training program involves a 3-day intensive entrepreneurship workshop, monthly meetings with progress reports, and a Business in a Box workshop courtesy of volunteers from the University of Miami in Florida. The participants were given $30,000 in Lasco products to start their venture. 9 of the 21 participants graduated and will now progress to the second phase of the program. The Jamaica Scorpions will go in search of their second win of the 2018-19 Regional 4-Day Championship when they take on the Leeward Island Hurricanes in their 6th-round game starting at 1 p.m. in a day-night fixture. The Scorpions, who departed the island on Monday, had their first win against the Windward Volcanoes last week.
What we need to do is just to improve on our performance in the last game. We have a few areas that we need to improve on. We only had a few batsmen who got over 50, so we are looking for the other batters to get among the runs. We have 2 West Indies cricketers back in, Blackwood and Powell, who will boost the team, no doubt about it. But basically, if we just go out there and play sensible cricket, smart cricket, you know, just to apply pressure throughout the game and try and win more sessions than one and finish just like we finished in the last game.
The Scorpions' batting has not clicked much this season, but the inclusion of Brandon King in the last game made a difference, and the right-hander is looking to continue his good form.
It's always a matter of focus for me. I mean, you have to just take it ball by ball. Most of the time, that's what helps me, and try to just do your best every time you go out there, and that's really what carries me through.
The match is set for Warner Parks in St. Kitts. Meanwhile, visitors England are in early trouble at batting first against the West Indies on day 1 of their second test at the Sir Vivian Richards ground in Antigua. England got to lunch at 78 for 4 with Rory Burns 4, Joe Denley 6, Captain Joe Root 7 and Josh Butler 1, all going before the lunchtime interval. And that's where we wrap up the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Please join us at 7 for the Primetime News package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.